Crowds cheered in Sydney. Headlines called it a win. In 2018, Meghan and Harry seemed to capture Australia. Warm smiles, easy moments, a royal glow that felt undeniable. Fast forward to now, and the silence is the story. No return visits, no invitations, no momentum. What changed between the Australia that welcomed Meghan Markle and the Australia that barely looks up? The answer isn't one thing, it's three. First, the reality of how Australia works. Invites, protocol, and clear status matter more than star power. Second, the optics after Nigeria, when Harry and Meghan looked a little too official, without being official, left governments cautious. And third, the mood has shifted. The same names that once drew applause now spark debate. Even Tom Bower, loud, controversial, impossible to ignore, has turned that debate into headlines, forcing the question, where do Meghan and Harry fit now? This isn't about a dramatic ban. It's about a door that never opens because no one is reaching for the handle. If Meghan wants Australia again, the why has to be stronger than the who. But that wasn't the whole story. In Australia, access isn't about fame. It's about invitation. That's the first wall Meghan and Harry run into. Official visits are arranged, logged, and cleared. Titles don't open doors on their own. Governments do. If Canberra doesn't extend the hand, the plane never leaves the runway, no matter how many headlines Meghan Markle can generate. That matters because status has to be crystal clear. Are Harry and Meghan visiting as private figures? As charity patrons? As something that looks royal without being royal? Australia hates blurred lines. Protocol exists to keep the lines bright. If a visit risks confusion, it's easier for officials to say nothing than to say yes. And silence, for Meghan, is the coldest answer of all. There's also the calculus of benefit. What does Australia gain from Meghan and Harry today? Tangible programs, measurable outcomes, or just a media cycle? Bureaucracies aren't impressed by buzz. They want purpose, partners on the ground, and no diplomatic cleanup afterward. Until that equation balances, the safest move is to leave the calendar blank. And that's why the next problem hits even harder. When Meghan and Harry look official without being official, nerves spike. Which brings us to the visit that changed the mood far beyond London, Nigeria, and why those optics made Australia even more cautious. Nigeria changed the temperature. Harry and Meghan arrived with schedules, speeches, and photo ops that looked, at a glance, like a classic royal tour. But they weren't there on behalf of the crown. That gap between appearance and authority is exactly what makes officials uneasy. To a government like Australia's, ambiguity is risk. Headlines say one thing, protocol requires another, and someone ends up issuing clarifications after the fact. For Canberra, the lesson was simple. If a visit might blur roles, don't host the confusion. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry can travel as private citizens, sure, but once events resemble walkabouts, dignitary meetings, or national symbolism, the stakes rise. Who speaks for whom? Whose policy is implied? In a Commonwealth country, those questions aren't academic. They touch constitutional nerves. There's also perception. When Meghan and Harry look semi-official, the public reads it as status reclaimed. Governments read it as lines crossed. Australia won't volunteer to referee that mismatch. It's cleaner to step back than to correct live, on camera, if things slide into royal theater. No drama, no mess, no visit. And that's only half the equation. Even if protocol is perfect, the audience has to want the show, which is why the next factor matters: how Meghan and Harry are actually polling with the people they'd be flying in to meet. Crowds fade, numbers linger. In recent years, Harry and Meghan have watched favorability dip in headlines and polling summaries, especially when stacked against senior royals. That doesn't mean Australia hates them. It means Meghan Markle and Prince Harry now carry more debate than delight. For officials weighing an invite, debate is drag. Australians are blunt. They like straight talk, visible work, and less celebrity theater. When Meghan is discussed now, the story often splits the room. Some see principled independence, others see constant contention. Harry triggers the same split. That division doesn't guarantee protests, but it does guarantee scrutiny. And scrutiny raises the cost of every move. Mood also compounds. Each new appearance gets filtered through the last controversy, the last interview, the last clip. A lukewarm baseline becomes a headwind. If Meghan and Harry walk in today, their presence isn't neutral. It's a test. Officials know it. Broadcasters know it. So the threshold for a yes rises higher than it was in 2018. But the shift isn't only about sentiment. It's about contrast. Australia loved what it saw in 2018. Light, easy, human. What it's seen since feels heavier. That brings us to the turning point. How the glow of that first tour compares to the friction of the years that followed, and why that comparison hurts Meghan most. Back then, the charm was simple. Meghan baked banana bread for a drought-struck community. Harry spoke about service and Invictus, and Australia met two people who felt present, grounded, and game for anything. The images were easy. Umbrellas in the rain, handshakes in country towns, a baby on the way. The story wrote itself, and Australia loved reading it. After 2018, the tone hardened. Interviews turned into flashpoints. Documentaries became Rorschach tests. Every time Meghan Markle shared a grievance, supporters heard honesty. Critics heard performance. Harry told his side too, and the couple's narrative, valid or not, shifted the vibe from light to loaded. The more personal the revelations, the less universal the appeal felt. Media dynamics magnified it. Clips were cut for outrage. Headlines sold the sharpest edges. By the time Australia looked up again, the pair it remembered from that first tour seemed replaced by Meghan and Harry, the culture war. The warmth of banana bread had been swapped for the heat of debates that never cool. And here's the sting. Goodwill buys patience, but friction demands proof. If Meghan and Harry want Australia to lean in now, they need more than nostalgia. They need a purpose people can touch, which is where the next question lands. What are they actually bringing to the table, and does it travel? In 2018, Meghan and Harry didn't need a pitch. Presence was the product. Today, presence isn't enough. Hosts want a reason, a program, a plan with outcomes. When officials ask, "What are we doing together in Australia?" the answer has to be clearer than vibes and headlines. That's where the gap shows. Some projects landed, others fizzled, and the internet recorded every wobble in real time. Meghan Markle's podcast drew attention and heat in equal measure. The Netflix slate put Harry and Meghan everywhere for a season. Then the conversation cooled. None of that is fatal, but it feeds a perception. Lots of noise, not always a tidy finish. For risk-averse planners, that's a flag. What works for Australia is concrete. Local partners, measurable deliverables, follow-through that outlasts the photo call. If Meghan arrives with a mentorship network, funding mapped, and timelines set, that's momentum. If Harry lands with veteran programs tied to Invictus pathways on Australian soil, that's substance. The currency is outcomes, not optics, and optics cut both ways. Every appearance becomes a Rorschach test. A red carpet moment reads as glam to fans and tone-deaf to critics, which is why one glossy night in Santa Barbara mattered more than it should have. The jewelry, the flash, the discourse. It became a symbol, fair or not, and it's the symbol we need to unpack next. One night, one snapshot, too many takes. At Kevin Costner's 1805 fundraiser in Santa Barbara, Meghan stepped out gleaming. Diana's Cartier watch on her wrist, stacked pieces worth headlines before she even spoke. For fans, it was elegance. For critics, it was excess. And for planners in places like Canberra, it was a reminder. Every Meghan Markle moment will be litigated in public, frame by frame. That's the bind. Glamour drives clicks. Scrutiny drives risk. If Harry and Meghan arrive in Australia, the conversation can't be about jewelry inventories or who stood where on a step and repeat. It has to be about why they're there, who benefits, and what lasts. Otherwise, the optics overwhelm the outcomes and the story tilts back to image over impact. Symbols stick. Meghan wearing Diana's watch is intimate to supporters and provocative to skeptics. Australia is practical. It prefers the work to speak. If the takeaway from a high-profile appearance is a fashion debate, the mission gets lost. That's not a Meghan problem alone. That's a modern celebrity problem, but it's a problem Australia won't volunteer to manage. which circles us to the loudest claims making the rounds. Talk of being banned, whispers about only traveling when someone else pays. They're dramatic, they're viral, and they demand sorting. What's assertion, what's evidence, and what actually explains the closed door? Loud words travel faster than quiet facts. Tom Bauer says a lot about Meghan, about Harry, about who will or won't invite them. His interviews fuel headline fire. Talk of an Australia freeze. Talk of the couple only flying when someone else pays. They're sticky claims. They're viral. But they're not the same as an official position from Canberra. There's no public decree with Meghan Markle's name on it. What exists is something subtler and harder to fight. Here's the real picture. Governments don't need to ban Harry and Meghan. They can simply not invite them. Protocol handles the rest. If Meghan doesn't have a formal role, if Harry isn't attending on behalf of the Crown, if there's no clear, beneficial program attached, the calendar stays blank. No drama, no paperwork, no spectacle, just silence. And silence is powerful. Money rumors add spice but distract from mechanics. Whether Meghan and Harry prefer hosted travel or self-fund is trivia compared to the core issue: purpose. If the mission is compelling, partners appear. If the mission is vague, partners vanish. Australia isn't weighing who pays first class. It's weighing outcomes, optics, and constitutional clarity. On that scale, gossip doesn't move the needle. Plans do. So, if it's not a legal lock on Meghan Markle or a budget line for Prince Harry, what would actually turn the handle on Australia's door? The answer is practical, unglamorous, and completely doable. And what happens next would surprise even the loudest cynics. Australia responds to substance. If Meghan Markle and Prince Harry want the map back to Sydney and Melbourne, it starts with a purpose that survives the headline cycle. Think 3 pillars. First, status clarity. Announce plainly whether they're visiting as private citizens tied to specific partner organizations, not as quasi-royals. Have letters of support from Australian institutions in hand before any teaser hits social media. When roles are crisp, Canberra can breathe. Second, programs, not photo ops. Arrive with signed MOUs, local co-leads, timelines, and measurable outcomes. If Meghan fronts a Women in Enterprise accelerator with Australian universities and micro-grant capital already ring-fenced, that's real. If Harry expands veteran transition pathways linked to Invictus alumni inside Australia, with apprenticeship slots and mentorship targets pre-committed, that's real. Announce deliverables you can show 6 months later. Placements, scholarships, funded cohorts, not just panels and podiums. Third, community first, cameras second. Australia reads sincerity through repetition and proximity. Choose regional stops beyond the obvious capital city loop. Keep media access us controlled, but not performative. Let Meghan sit with founders in workshop rooms where there's nothing to film except work. Let Harry meet veterans where services are delivered, not just where microphones are set. A quieter schedule looks less glamorous and lands far better. The optics take care of themselves when the outputs are undeniable. If Meghan and Harry can point to funded pipelines, new jobs, and local partners praising delivery, not promises, the narrative flips. Protocol stops being a wall and becomes a walkway. Suddenly, invites aren't risky. They're rewarding. And that's when the door Australia never slammed finally swings, because someone tried the handle with the right key. In 2018, Australia met warmth, ease, and hope. In 2025, it weighs protocol, optics, and outcomes. Meghan and Harry didn't hit a hard wall. They walked into a space where the door only opens for purpose. That's the real difference. Not a ban, not a blacklist, a filter. One that favors clarity over celebrity, delivery over drama, and work over words. If Meghan Markle wants that bridge back, it won't be built on nostalgia or spectacle. It'll be built on letters signed, partners confirmed, and results that outlast a news cycle. If Prince Harry wants the room to listen, it won't be because of a title. It'll be because veterans, students, and founders can point to something new that exists because he showed up. That's the test Australia sets. It's tough, it's fair, and it's winnable. So the question isn't, are they banned? It's, will they bring something Australia can keep? If the answer becomes yes, the map redraws itself, quietly, decisively, and without fanfare. Until then, the silence says everything. And what happens next just might flip the script in a way no headline sees coming.